The Dolphins have their bye week this upcoming weekend, but there are some big time changes that could be coming to the Dolphins lineup after the bye week. Why do I say that? Well, there are players that will likely be returning to the roster from injury, and the top four players that could be returning are Austin Jackson, Rasul Douglas, James Daniels, and Darren Waller. Waller, Jackson, and Daniels all were on IR. Jackson's 21-day practice window was open last week, and he is the most likely to return to the lineup. Matter of fact, I think it's basically a guarantee that both Rasul Douglas and Austin Jackson return. Douglas was questionable for last week against the Commanders, ultimately was held out, but Austin Jackson, with his practice day window opened, he has to be activated to the 53-man roster by December 2nd, so it makes the most logical sense that he will be activated prior to the Week 13 game against the Saints, and he will be returning to that Dolphins offensive line. But that could create an interesting shift on that O-line that we're going to discuss on today's show. Austin Jackson has been the starting right tackle when healthy for the past couple of years, but the thing is, right now, Larry Borom is playing really good football, who is filled in for Jackson this year when he got ultimately hurt with that toe injury in week 1 against the Colts. Well, I've seen some speculation online and some ideas suggested that maybe Miami brings back Austin Jackson at right tackle, but makes some other tweaks on the offensive line. Right now, it's been Paul Savinaya, Brewer, Cole Strange, and Larry Borom filling in, up front. But I did just mention Larry Borom has actually been extremely good for the Dolphins at right tackle over the last 5-6 weeks. He's actually been unbelievable. So it's hard for me to want to bring Austin Jackson back and bench Larry Borom. Because if we're just going to be honest here, yeah, Jackson has proven he can be an above-average right tackle in this league. Larry Borom's playing at a level right now where you cannot guarantee Austin Jackson would be much better. And I can't believe I'm saying that with how poorly Larry Borom started the year in September and early October. I mean, Larry Borom against the Commanders in Week 11 was the number 1 graded offensive tackle. Yes, you heard that correctly. Out of all offensive tackles in the NFL in Week 11, he ranked first in both run block grade and overall grade. He was 33rd in pass blocking grade. He allowed no sacks and not even one hurry. He has been playing really, really good football. And on the year, he's been an extremely serviceable swing tackle. I mean, you can't ask for anything else other than what Larry Borom has provided you as that backup right tackle. Like, you just can't expect much better than that. But if you take away the first 5 weeks of the year, it's a much different story. He's had a pass blocking grade of at least a 70 since week 6. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. The first 5 weeks of the year was absolutely rough for Larry Borom. It was brutal. Made us really question how he was an offensive lineman in the NFL. But the way he has been able to find his stride, maybe it was just him really trying to figure out this Dolphins offensive scheme. It's not the easiest for offensive linemen to pick up because there's so many nuances in terms of motions and pulls and getting out to the outside. But man, ever since that game against the Chargers in week 6, he's been absolutely nails. And it's hard for me to want to bench him. We'll have more on this in a second, but help us out by sharing today's video. You know what? The first 5 people to share this video and tag me on Twitter at Nick_Roloff is going to get a shout out on a video later on this week. So if you want to get on the show, be a real one and share today's video. And then you got to tag me at Nick_Roloff on Twitter/X. Obviously, you are going to bring Austin Jackson back to that starting offensive line due to his contract and the notoriety of type of player he is. But what if you brought Austin Jackson back at right tackle, which is where he's played over the last couple of years, but you kept Larry Borom in the starting lineup by shifting him from right tackle to right guard, ultimately replacing Cole Strange? Well, Borom has had experience, not really, but he has done it technically in the NFL prior. He has played 20 snaps at right guard in his career, 42 at left guard. He has predominantly been a right tackle, but he's also gotten some snaps at left tackle with the Chicago Bears. Now, you could also make a case for Austin Jackson to move into guard because before he moved to right tackle, we know he started at left tackle, then got some experience at guard before he found his home at right tackle where he ultimately had the most success. But I don't know if that is the best idea. If you wanted to keep the best 5 offensive linemen on your roster that is active and healthy in the starting group, you would have to imagine it's Austin Jackson at right tackle and Larry Borom going at right guard. And I certainly do believe Borom shifting to right guard would be better what Cole Strange has been because he's been putrid over the last month. And we've talked about this. Larry Borom's on the rise the last month. Well, Cole Strange is on the decline. We'll talk more about him here in a second. But this episode is brought to you by Ethos. Have you or a friend ever experienced loss, which has you thinking about how to secure your family's financial future? With life insurance through Ethos, your family is protected. Life insurance is a perfect way to make sure you're covered. Right now, you can get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online, no medical exam required. You just answer a few health questions. Some policies as low as $2 a day, billed monthly, and as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary, rates may vary. Links in the description and comments of today's video. I'll say it again. If you want to maximize your talent that you have at your disposal on the offensive line, you should move Larry Borom to right guard, move Austin Jackson back in the lineup at right tackle, and bench Cole Strange because he has been horrible. This year, he's appeared in 465 snaps. He started for the first time for Miami in Week 4 against the Jets, and he's been the starting right guard ever since. And he's had some decent moments in the run game because that's what he specializes in. He's a little bit of an undersized offensive lineman, but he's really athletic, and he can get out to the perimeter and lay some good blocks. But he is as bad as a pass protector as you can possibly script and sculpt an offensive lineman to be in the NFL. He's been an absolute liability. And when you have seen the Dolphins' interior offensive line give up a lot of pressure and Tua not be able to step up in the pocket or get sacked quickly, have to get rid of it quickly, or be flushed from the pocket, most of the pressures are actually coming from the interior. Over the last 6 weeks, Larry Borom and Patrick Paul have been great bookend pass-protecting offensive tackles. But then you have Jonas Savvy and I at left guard and Cole Strange at right guard being absolute liabilities. Aaron Brewer has been a top 5 center in football this year, and he has had to pick up a lot of the slack for him being sandwiched in between 2 absolute liabilities at offensive guard. So I'm not saying Larry Borom would move to right guard and be elite, but I have to imagine he would be better than what Cole Strange has been, especially in pass pro. You can make the argument maybe Strange would be better still in the run game, but pass protection, I don't think there's really a conversation to be had whatsoever on the matter. So let me know before we continue this talk. Should the Dolphins move Larry Borom to right guard? Pin comment on today's show. Embrace debate. Type Y for yes or type N for no. I will say it's a bit of a tricky decision because Cole Strange knows the offense and the requirements to be a right guard in this system. I mentioned it just a little bit ago. It's not the easiest offensive scheme to pick up because you do have so many motions. You still have a lot of responsibilities in the run game of getting to the outside, getting to the second level, double blocking inside. So if you are not accustomed to playing that specific position in a Mike McDaniel offense, it will not come as easy as potentially shifting around in other offenses around the league. But if you do want to put Larry Borom alongside this offensive line and have Austin Jackson, it has to be Borom at right guard because you have to put Austin Jackson at right tackle. Because when you've seen him in his career, he has had the most success at right tackle. And he has been the blindside protector of Tua when he's been healthy for the last couple of seasons. But you also need to use this time to evaluate Austin Jackson's future within the Miami Dolphins organization. Because when you look at his contract in 2026, it is the final year of his deal. and he's being paid a decent chunk of change. $9.8 million base salary, a $15 million cap hit, but a lot of that is guaranteed. He's owed $11.5 million in cash, and he gets another $1 million due to a roster bonus on the third day of the league year. So if he's still on the roster on March 13th or March 14th of 2026, well, it's going to be incredibly difficult to ultimately move on from him unless you trade him to a team that is willing to take on that contract, because you don't even create a lot of cap space if you were to cut Austin Jackson. You only get 3 or 4 and have about $8, $9, $10 million in dead cap. So this next month and a half stretch to close out the year, in my opinion, is a big evaluation period for Austin Jackson. He needs to return to the starting lineup, and he needs to stay healthy. If he misses another game for the rest of the year, I'm telling you, I'm moving off of him. I'll take the dead cap hit. I've already laid it out on a couple episodes here on the channel that I'm preparing to find his long-term replacement this offseason, whether it is in free agency or the draft, because you cannot trust Austin Jackson to be on the football field consistently. And his play on the field, although good, is not good enough to warrant keeping him as your starting right tackle because of that inability to stay on the football field. So you need to evaluate if he can still play at an above average level in the NFL, but also evaluate if you're willing to take him on for another season. It is a big time period for him and the Miami Dolphins, which is why, in my opinion, yes, I'm fine making a major change and moving Larry Borom to right guard, but you have to have Austin Jackson in at right tackle. So if you're asking me, until James Daniels returns from IR himself, I would probably go with Patrick Paul at left tackle, Jonah at left guard, Brewer at center, Borom at right guard, and Austin Jackson at right tackle. And I hope the Miami Dolphins ultimately do that against the Saints in Week 13 coming out of the bye. And we'll let you know on everything Miami Dolphins and be live for that Week 13 game against the Saints. So subscribe and join the channel.